It's the greatest podcast in the history of the world.
It goes high up and under the full foot.
Mackey's taken a ripper! He has a bounce, he crosses 50, he pins the ears back, and he drills the goal!
All the latest news and views from around the VAFA.
Here's the big man!
The big guy!
He's done it again! This bloke extracts some of the finest!
All thanks to Mequicare, proud partner of the VAFA.
Makes a name for himself with these long bombs from outside the arc. It's a long bomb from outside the arc!
This is for the love of the game.
You can tweet that and hashtag it bloody good.
Hello and welcome to For the Love of the Game, the official podcast of the amateurs. Round 12, run and one, and we've got a big show ahead. All the results from across the association. JORDIE McKENZIE is the coach of Collegians, and he's coming up shortly after the Lions did for Old Scotch. And we'll hear from TAYLAH WATSON, the new skipper of the Big V women, and Harry Hill, the returning skipper of the Big V men, ahead of a huge weekend, the centenary year of the Big V, taking on the Perth Footy League on Saturday, and then the Bendigo Footy League on Sunday. Our newshound, BRAYDEN MAY, will join us as usual. It's all for Mequicare, who care for more than 16,500 people each week across Greater Melbourne and regional Victoria, and have been doing it since 1959. Paddy Grindlay with you today. Matthew Donald beside me, as he has been for much of 2025. For the love of the game, Matthew Donald, welcome once again.
Thank you, Paddy. Always a pleasure to be here. And yes, so much to talk about over another crazy weekend of footy, and so much to look forward to. It's a huge weekend for the VAFA. Can't wait to get stuck into it.
It's genuinely difficult to figure out where to start today, isn't it? Let's go over to the back-to-back Premiership coach of Elstonwick and the three-time Coach of the Year, Hugo Higginbotham, who pays me a lot of money to mention that every time I introduce him on a VAFA media product. Hugo, welcome back to you.
Thanks, Paddy. Great to be here. Geez, what an exciting week. It's been a great weekend of footy, but it's action time now. The Big V this weekend, it's very exciting, and my accountant will be in touch with that forthcoming payment, Patrick.
Thank you very much. And I hear you had a touch of the Tullamarine flu over the weekend as well, so it's good to see you looking nice and tanned and ready to go for the Big V weekend. Let's start, gentlemen, with William Buck Premier Men's Division, because if there's a rivalry that has drawn my attention over the 2 years that I've been involved in the Amos, it's Collegians and Scotch. It's always been the Lions in the home and away season that have managed to get the job done, and at the weekend, they did it once again. It's Collegians over Old Scotch by 12 points, 61 playing 49. A massive result for the Lions as they try and hold on to a position outside of the relegation zone. And joining us to speak all about it on For the Love of the Game is the coach of the Collegians Footy Club, JORDIE McKENZIE. Hello to you, JORDIE.
G'day, fellas. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for your time, mate. Congratulations on the win. It looked to be a pretty tight and contested game of footy. You get away late. Take us through it.
Yeah, it was. There was a really, obviously a lot on the line, as pretty much is the case with most games. So, it was no exception. So, obviously on the back of that, naturally they are pretty tight, tough and contested games with either side not looking to give an inch, and definitely no easy goals or anything along those lines. So, that's the way it played out, and look, it was a really pleasing result. Scotch came really hard late. But to keep sort of fighting it out right to the end, and Will D'Amico ultimately kicking the sealer. It was obviously a bit of relief, but excitement and all those emotions wrapped into one. So it was really pleasing.
You might get some fines during the week, Will, because I've seen that clip floating around social media 6 or 7 times over the last couple of days. Matty Donald, here's a stat for you. 12 wins of their last 13 against Old Scotch for Collegians. You've actually got to go back to the 2015 home and away season to find a year where the Cards were able to beat the Lions in the home and away season. It's a remarkable streak of victories.
It is outrageous. JORDIE, congratulations on the win. And we do see this sometimes in all levels where, for whatever reason, one team seems to match up well enough against the other and has a good historical run. Can you put a finger on what it is about your side that it seems to have over Scotch?
It's a really good question, and and off the bat, I suppose the one that we didn't win was obviously the most important one. That was the final last year as well.
I left that out to look after you, George. Yep, apologies.
Yeah, Mark and the boys were far too good for us that day, which carries a lot of weight. So. I think it is one of those ones. It's probably a little bit hard to put the finger on, but yes, as you said, sometimes teams do just match up well against others. Look, we keep our focus pretty simple as much as we can. Look, Scotch are a really good side. They've got a lot of talent and plenty of good ball users. And especially in sort of the back half, they do look to control the footy, and they do it very well. So as much as we can, we try and sort of deny them controlling the footy where we can. And the boys have been carrying that out, and probably the weekend was no exception. Look, they still had close to 80 marks, which is still a fair few, but, I think when Scotch are playing their best, their marks are a bit higher again. So to sort of try and keep a bit of speed on the ball where we could, throughout the day, it probably worked in our favour, and, to ultimately get the result. That wasn't the only reason, but as you said at the start, I think we just do match up reasonably well against them.
Jordie, great to have a chat to you after a win, mate. I've been waiting for this one for a while. We've been close. Hey, and a win at home too.
Oh, yeah.
The boys celebrate that. Is that that's the first one this year, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. There was. I'd mentioned it a bit throughout the year. I think naturally you get a bit superstitious. So going into this one, I didn't mention it that we were still looking for our first home win. So it was. It's probably another element of relief there. It's been a bit of a strange one. That all other wins and even the draw were away from home. So good to get that first one off the bank. Obviously, we would have liked it a bit earlier on in the year. That's for sure.
Yeah, mate. So looking at your season, so you've got two distinct little blocks in there. So round 2, 4 and 6, it was a loss by 5 points, by 7 points and by 7 points. And then rounds 10, 11 and 12, obviously the draw, and then win-win. What's the difference between the two blocks there, mate? Because you're very close in the first one. And was it a bit of learning out of that? And that second block, it's been really great to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's been some really good learnings, and we're probably somewhat of a younger group with, and through a few things out of our control, a lot of people coming in and out each week. And look, we're not the exception with that one. Obviously, a lot of VAFA clubs are like that as well. But to probably just lately get a little bit more consistency in regards to who's running out there each Saturday afternoon has probably helped a little bit. But across the board, look, there's probably been 2 games we haven't been in. That would have been Zabs and round 1 against Haileybury. Outside of that, sometimes probably the scoreboard has blown out a bit late, but we've sort of been in games at least a 3/4 time. And the learnings from those ones probably have just been going away from the basics a little bit. Sometimes it is a little bit without making excuses. Sometimes it is a little bit of that younger side and then running out of legs as the game goes on, and a bit of sort of class and talent might have took over. But as a general rule, probably just doing that simple thing well, and doing that simple thing well when the game's on the line. So that's probably one of the most pleasing things, even when we drew against Uni Blues a couple of weeks ago, to fight it right out and have a couple of really good contests late where blokes won 50-50 balls, blokes were clean with the footy and just did the simple thing well. To do that when the game is on the line, that's probably been one big improvement over the last sort of month. But yeah, as you mentioned, there's a couple of ones where we got awfully close and there wasn't a heap in it. So as a coach, you've always also got to be very careful not to overanalyse those ones sometimes as well. But as a general rule, some really good learnings that have been somewhat consistent, and that's probably one of the most pleasing things about the last month. We're just seeing some more consistency, and we're starting to show the wider community our brand a bit more often.
And on that, mate, obviously you mentioned young side, a lot of new faces in there from the last couple of years. Has there been a bit of a connection issue or improvement? Have you noticed that as well? They're starting to play a bit more like a team because they're getting to know each other?
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. Yeah, so even just that, the most obvious one's often that sort of connection offensively from, D50 all the way into the forward 50. So I think the boys are really good. They get on great bunch of fellas. So to have a few people come in, some young, some a little bit older, but Jonty McGuinness is obviously one of them, along with the other, Henry Anderson and Max Stovey, the Mafra boys as well. So to have them as well as some other young fellas come through and play a bit more consistently, but even just some positional changes, so someone like Max Pinchbeck to play, full midfield time where he's traditionally been a forward and things like that. I think we're just starting to see everyone gel a bit more, and the boys have always got on really well, and I think it's just probably getting to know each other better from a footy specific sense, I suppose, and a teammate element. So naturally you get a bit of natural progression in that sense.
Jordie, I'm impressed in all of us, really, that we've got about 9 minutes down in this conversation before one of us mentioned Jonty McGuinness, because I know that how much, Hugo loves the boy from Mafra who plays with the big purple headband and goes after it in the ruck. Talk me through, I suppose, what it looks like for the back end of the season now, Jordie, because we have been speaking about you, unfortunately, in regards to the relegation race, which is looking like a particularly close run thing in 2025. This win gets you out of the drop zone place. You're up into 7th position. You leapfrog a couple with your recent form. Do you start talking about what it's going to take over the back end of the season for you guys to stay away from the bottom 2 positions at all, or do you just sort of let the year play out?
Yeah, it's a very good point. And just quickly on the Jonty one, it was a funny one. After we chatted a few weeks ago, I was chatting to him, Henry and Max, and I said they've W in Media Street, they've W the Mafra Mafia. And Jonty was... Yeah. He was fuming, actually, funnily enough,
That's
because
right.
he's a Sale boy. So that's probably my mistake. And Sale and Mafra are arch rivals. So he said, if my old man hears that, he's going to lose it.
We'll apologise to Jonty then.
Yeah, I still stir him up, and I group him in the Mafra Mafia. But no, your question's a good one, a really good one, Paddy. It was one of those ones probably a few weeks ago. Yeah, I don't know if you'd call it the elephant in the room or not, but we hadn't really chatted about it, and not that talking and honing in on these sort of the relegation and that sort of element of fear of failure. Like obviously, it's very balanced in regards to your communication and how you do treat it. But we just probably did have a bit of a chat about it in regards to even to some of the new boys that came in, some of those country boys that we spoke of in regards to, relegation and just sort of the basics in and around it. And we just had a bit of a chat too in regards to Collegians and the history of Collegians in regards to how long we've been in A grade and, and all that type of thing. So it was very much a chat not to be, that it was an exciting challenge, rather than something to be feared, and how it's the beauty of the VAFA that there's so much riding on every game, and, the last few weeks have been no exception. So we just had a bit of a chat about that one, but obviously it's then controlling what we can control. So we're under no illusions that we're well and truly up to our necks in that battle still, even though we've jumped a couple of spots off late. It's not much in it at all. So every game's huge. We just focused on that last month initially, and then obviously it's a bit of a reset now with the double bye, but then we've got a huge 6-game stretch where, we're looking to make every post a winner. So as far as our focus goes, the boys are well aware of the enormity of it, but then we just sort of bring it back to the basic, the footy specifics and the standards and the basics that do make us a good side and what have made us an improved side of late.
Just one final one from me, Jordie. Before you get to that crucial run home, and there's a lot of important games for you, the double bye is coming up. Now, I'm curious as to how you'll be approaching that. Will you be making the most of the free time and really working overtime to try and sort out how your team's going to approach the run-in, or are you looking to just step away and completely take your focus away from footy for a couple of weeks?
I'm a bit of a footy tragic. You might have already picked that up. So
a little bit,
I don't stay too far away from the vision and analysts and that type of thing, and I obviously try and streamline it when communicating with the boys and showing them vision and that type of thing. So for me, I'll still look. Don't get me wrong. We have a few nights off training and that type of thing, which is does definitely free up a bit of time. So I definitely do enjoy that element. But I think very much the planning and all that type of thing, don't really switch off too much on that in regards to leading into our last 6 weeks. But as far as the players go, we have a few sessions off that we'll catch up tonight. A good mate of mine, Callum Wilkie, who's vice captain of the Saints, he's going to come have a chat to the boys as well, which would be good. And then we'll get back into it in about a bit over a week. And then the first cab off the ranks, Uni Blacks, which is massive, as is every game. So from a player point of view, it's a great reset as well, in the sense of this time of year, middle of winter, heavy grounds. There's a lot of sore boys. So there's a few that have just been crawling through to this double bye, and then a few boys that we're hoping to get back as well. So for them, like a Kenny Yong and a Sam Hibbins and maybe a Will Putras, for them it's a really important couple of weeks as well to try and get their body right to put their hand up in a couple of weeks.
So for Old Scotch, it was Andy Gelbart's 200th game, and Coach Mark Knapp was impressed with the performances of the Brown brothers, Henry and Jack, who fought well and won their respective battles. Will Clark also important in the ruck and up forward as well. JORDIE McKENZIE, it's always lovely to start a podcast with your unflinching positivity on a Tuesday morning. Congratulations on the victory, and looking forward to hearing more from you as this year continues.
Thanks a lot, fellas. Great having a chat. Have a good day.
Wonderful to speak to Collegians coach JORDIE McKENZIE. Of their 4 wins this season, 2 have come against Old Scotch, 2 have come in the last few weeks. They're going okay, Collegians, after we thought Hugo and Matthew, they were in some trouble with the relegation race really heating up in VAFA's top flight.
But if you look at Collegians, they've lost a couple of games by not much of a margin. They've been in it at 3/4 time. So there's always been something building there, as JORDIE alluded to. So I think it's great for them. And it's getting exciting down the bottom end there, isn't it?
It really is. The University Blues, St Bernard's around the place. We'll go through that in the next 15 minutes or so. It's our Premier A review. Matthew Donald, you and I were at the St Kevin's Old Brighton game at the TH King Oval. Really close game of footy for most of the way home until St Kevin's broke clear late. Both squads probably a touch undermanned to what we're used to seeing. How did you see things?
Yeah, well, it was a game that really ebbed and flowed, and we were obviously at TH King Oval, and we made note of the breeze that was going towards one end of the ground, and how both sides seemed to dominate play based on whether they had the advantage of the breeze or not. And in the second term, St Kevin's with it really got on top of Old Brighton and put together a bit of a buffer for them, but then the World Ladder leaders came back again in the third term and piled on 5 goals in a rush to give themselves a bit of a buffer heading into the last change. And then St Kevin's with the breeze at the end lifted again and put together 7 goals in the final term. So it was a really big win for St Kevin's. As you mentioned, both sides had a couple of players out. But just for St Kevin's to consolidate their spot in the top 4, they've been a little bit up and down at times this year. But against a genuine premiership contender, this was a huge win for them.
Yeah, they're impressive, St Kevin's. They've got to be the best last quarter finishing side in the competition. We've seen a few of their games where it's been touch and go 3/4 time. I think even the Collegians one earlier. There was the Scotch one. It's one to watch.
Yeah, it certainly is. So the key thing for me is the injury cost, because this is going to be a problem as the year continues. Angus Hart's been a bloke who I've loved behind the footy. He played a lot of the 2024 season ahead of the ball with Paddy Kerr as his sort of centre-half forward. They threw him back in the pre-season. They identified a role for him, and he's been superb. I was actually surprised that he wasn't in the extended Big V squad, such was his early season form. He suffered what looked to be a pretty nasty ankle injury. There was a few mentions over the effects mic down there at the TH King that it might have been a broken ankle. We're hoping it's not that for Angus Hart. He was eventually able to walk off the ground, so hopefully that's signs to the good. Sam Milne didn't finish the game with a knee injury. We saw Sam Cameron pretty sore, but he came back on, kicked a couple of goals on the way home. The other players not playing for St Kevin's who I would expect to see as the year continues, fingers crossed again, Elliot Marnie, Liam Walters, Paddy Kerr, Tom Jock, Ollie Gill, Jack Andriski, maybe Gus Hanrahan if he comes back from playing for Sydney VFL. So they've still got a fair few to come back, which would make Anthony Lynch really excited.
They do, and then depth is what you need, particularly as we get towards the latter stage of the season. A few sore bodies, and you just want to be able to bring in players who are ready to go. Those absentees you mentioned, they'll hurt in the long run, but it makes this win all the more meritorious because they were down to 2 on the bench from quarter time. Yeah. So they had to play the last 3 quarters against one of the best teams in the season with half their bench, and they coasted home in the end. It was 7 goals in the last quarter. It's a really, really impressive result for St Kevin's.
Yeah, and the Tunners without Tom Yorgie through concussion. Hamish Dick with that split open head, which I think was about 20 stitches and plastic surgery for Hamish, which was unfortunate. So hopefully he's on the mend. Campbell Tweedy not playing. Kai DiMattina not playing. Darcy Gilbert, Sam Linder, Sam Flockhart. Again, both those guys depending on VFL availability with Linder and Flockhart. Luca McNabb didn't play, and Max Benier with that torn ACL. Devastating for Max. He didn't play as well. One bloke, though, that Marcel Bruin, the coach of the Tunners, was really impressed with was Gussie Cork on debut down back, who was superb. Tom Fisher in the middle of the ground was excellent, but in the end, the Tunners just suffering to the clinical finishing of St Kevin's, especially in the last quarter, left to rue some missed opportunities down the stretch, Hugo.
Yeah, no, what about all those guys that are missing? That's another big V side there, isn't it? That's amazing. But, geez, not a bad problem to have coming back late in the season to get some of those guys back in. And I don't know how they're going to fit in those sides, but it's going to be very, very interesting coming home.
I don't envy Soupy's job as the season continues. So they're, of course, off the top now, the Tunners. The team replacing them is a team that's in terrific form in recent weeks. I'll go through the numbers in just a second, but the Old Zavarians are on top of the ladder. They thumped St Bernard's at Toorak Park. It's been a pretty happy hunting ground for them in 2025, the Zavs. They got it done with a third quarter, 9 goals to 1. They blew the margin out to 80 points. It looked a little bit like that it was going to be a 100-point loss for the Snowies, but they were able to dig in late and ensure that it was just an 81-point margin. It could have been a lot worse for Steve Alessio and his team, the Zavs, Hugo. We know that this is a high-quality football team. We've seen them a couple times in 2025 as part of the SEN match of the day. This result doesn't come as a massive surprise considering their recent form, but do they feel like to you that they might be the premiership favourites as we go into the double bye?
Oh, as our great mate Petchy would say, there's still a lot of footy to play out in the year, but they're getting better all the time, aren't they? They're gelling together. The guys are all coming in. But, the scores they're putting together are impressive. Number 1 for scoring, 2 for defence. You don't really have that. You're either one or the other. So they're working well at both ends of the ground. I do like them, but I'm not going to put my already tattered reputation on the line and say that they're premiership favourites, but geez, they're up there.
I wouldn't say tattered, Hugo. You make us look very good. They average 109 points over the last 5 weeks. So it's a high-scoring team, and you look through these wins, and now it's a 6-game winning streak. The Uni Blues at the game that we saw at the University Oval by 2 points, and then Collegians, they win by 66. TAYLAH, 56. St Kevin's, 32. The Uni Blacks, 43. And then the Snow Dogs on the weekend, 81 points. Their third win this year coming by 81 points or more. So they've been able to beat up against the sides to get the percentage boost that they're going to need probably to hold on to top spot if Brighton gets back on its winning ways post-bye. But they've also been able to beat the teams around them by a handy margin. I look to that St Kevin's game where they win by 5 goals, and that really stands out.
Yeah, they've been superb throughout the course of the season. It feels like in terms of premiership favourites, we've certainly got our Quinella in the top two, Old Brighton and Old Zavs as things stand. Obviously, when we get to finals, Hugo, as you said, and as Petchy will tell us, a lot can still happen between now and the end of the season. But of course, on form, I mean, the two sides are 2 games clear at least of the rest of the pack at this stage, which is a sizable gap at the top 4. Nuts, given how Old Brighton have played this season. They've had a narrow loss they had a narrow loss earlier in the season and defeated the weekend, and all of a sudden they're knocked off top spot. It's not taken a lot for them to fall off the perch at the moment. Yeah, no, but realistically, with the way the competition is, you just want to finish in the top 2 because you won't get any home ground advantage with the finals because they're played on independent grounds. It's probably more bragging rights, but it's always good to have the spotlight off you. Brighton have had the spotlight on them the whole year. We've always focused, they're unbeatable. Then they lost. Now is it going to be Zavs? Are they going to get under that pressure? Will that give Brighton a chance to come back and just consolidate? And, but pressure builds as well. So it'll be interesting to see.
Steve Alessio, the coach of the Snow Dogs, was pretty disappointed in his team's effort, especially the contested game where, this is the Old Zavs bread and butter. They weren't up to standard around the football. They get a very good look, though, at a team that plays at such quality around stoppage and transitions well from one end to the other with the footy. They did find a few players, though, Steve Alessio. We know that they're a little bit short-handed through injury in particular at the moment, so they've been able just to turn over the list and see what they've got with some of their younger players. Someone like Marcus Eade stands out for me as a guy who might play some senior footy in the years to come. So the Snow Dogs, now, Hugo, in a little bit of trouble as we look at the ladder because the relegation race is pretty tricky. We just spoke about the Zavs scoring presence over the last few weeks. Over their last 6 games, St Bernard's are averaging 55.5 points scored, 5 losses and a draw, 2 points clear of the relegation zone in 8th spot, second worst percentage in the comp. Remembering that they stayed up last year with 5 victories. They're at 4.5 right now as we go to the double bye. And we know that the University Blues and JORDIE McKENZIE's Collegians are going much better than their ladder position suggests.
Yes, the Snow Dogs, they're just looking for the bye at the moment. The double bye, we saw that game over there at the Snake Pit where they were, down 1 at 3/4 time. They had 17, probably not completely fit players on the field, but they had 17 out there. So, and this is just a sort of cattle thing at the moment, as we say in the coaching game. But it is good to give people opportunities because later in the year you might need to go back to someone and they won't be untried because they would have used nearly everyone on the list.
Just about would have. On to the University Blues who got 4 points over De La Salle at Waverley Oval. Pretty much led from go to woe. 54 points the margin in that game of footy. Matthew Donald. Matt Smith's had a bit of a tricky run with close games of footy. I reckon he was pleased to have a 9-goal victory at the weekend. Yeah,
about time they fell over the line in one of these games, Paddy. But yeah, as you say, after quarter time, reasonably close opening term, but after that, it was a comfortable victory for the Blues. And even though they haven't been picking up wins, they've been picking up points along the way. So this is going to bode well for them in their run-in because they still maintain touch with those teams that are just above them in the relegation zone. We sat here last week and we talked about what another good opportunity it was for TAYLAH coming up against a 9th place side in the competition and how there might have been a chance for them to finally get on the board in 2025. As you say, the Blues snuffed that one out pretty quickly in this game. So disappointing for TAYLAH, who's still looking for their first win of the season. But for the Blues and their escape to freedom, it's a big shot in the arm, this one.
I don't think you can look at where the Blues sit on the ladder because we've seen some games that they played this year. They only just lost the Zavs at home. There's been so many of those that it's just must be a frustrating thing. But, a good win now, come into the bye, refresh. But it's that bottom ninth spot. Yeah. It's just going to be amazing to watch.
The team that goes down from ninth spot this year, I feel for some of the Premier B teams who might have to cop the response in 2026 because it's going to be brutal. You mentioned there's a 2-point gap then in the last time that we see between the ladder leading Zavs and the ninth place Blues. So the team that right now is positioned in the best position to try and have a go at the Premiership versus the team that needs to really win some games over the back end of the year to escape going down to Premier B. It's just remarkable. The Blues, 3 wins, 7 losses, 2 draws, Matthew Donald, as you alluded to, but their percentage sits at 94.75. So it's certainly a better team than the ladder position suggests. St Bernard's, they're 4-7-1, 2 points clear. Collegians 4-7-1, both with poorer percentages than the Blues. Even the University Blacks up in 6th at 6-6 with 83.9 are behind in percentage versus the Blues. So that really gives you an insight, Matthew Donald, into how their year's gone so far.
Yeah, I mean, I think we said this on Saturday, 94.75% for a team that's second last on the ladder. That's ridiculously high for a team in that part of the ladder. The unfortunate thing is that unless one of Collegians or St Bernard's pick up a draw, it's probably not going to mean as much because they're only separated by half a game. It's that cliche of a percentage of infinity at this point in the year. So unless there's another game where Collegians or St Bernard split points, it's not going to count for much. But it does go to show just how competitive that they are, that they're almost close to scoring a point for every point they concede with that percentage. And for a side that's second last, it's you don't get a percentage of that high all that often.
They're actually 6th on the ladder for points scored.
Yeah.
So, it's those losses, it just must be so frustrating for them. But, they'll be taking some scalps in the last couple of games of the year. You can guarantee that.
Yeah, the ladder's close enough that they can really upset some seasons as the year continues. Let's round out our William Buck Premier discussion. Gentlemen, with the Sunday game that happened between the University Blacks and the Old Haileyburyans at the Melbourne University Oval, and it was the Bloods who go 2 for 2 at the Uni in season 2025. They were up by 33 points at halftime. Andreas Stefanakis ended up kicking 7 goals. They win the game by 33 points and just continue to tick over the legs, the Bloods, responding to a loss against Old Scotch 2 weeks ago at the College Hugo.
Yeah, that was very important for them to come back strong after that loss because you could see that looked like a very flat side that day out at the college. Because you and I called that one, Paddy. We called the socks off it as we usually do. Well, you did. Of course. Well. But it's encouraging to see Stefanakis kick goals because he really struggled the week before.
Yeah, yep.
And that can come with the pressure of being on top of the goal-kicking ladder because all eyes are on you. And he's a young guy. But what's great about young players? They're goldfish. They forget about last week. They're straight on to the next one, and they're that exciting to watch too. And he is too. I love him.
Oh, he's a freak, Dre. He had Ryan Walsh in his hip pocket pretty much all day long. He kicked 2 goals. Again, we mentioned this last week, but one of those goals was the last goal of the game when the game was pretty much finished. So it was a pretty dirty day for Dre, but great to see him respond with 7 goals. He's got a name in the Big V squad as well.
I think after that game, he drove him home too. Home. He didn't even know he was in the car.
Goes to have a shower and he followed him in. It was ridiculous stuff at the college. Quotes from Dale Bauer of the University Blacks, who was disappointed in the skill level and decision-making of his team and was happy that they fought hard to get back into the game, but the errors through the middle of the ground especially, which cost them, gave credit to Old Haileybury and looking to reload over the break and continue what's been a recent run of good form from the University Blacks, who looked, Matthew Donald, to be in a little bit of trouble at the very start of the year, but have turned their season around completely over the last 2 months of football.
Yeah, they have. Big win, this one for the Bloods. A genuine 8-pointer in the race for the finals, and for Old Haileybury now, it allows them to keep that buffer ahead of the chasing pack. The stat that I took away from this match was at halftime, 11 scores to 8. Yet it was 10-1 Old Haileybury to 4-4. It just goes to show how important goal kicking is in tight games like that. It can be the difference between winning and losing, and a 7-goal haul will certainly go a long way to aiding that as well. But it just goes to show you've got to take your chances at this level if you want to go deep into the season.
So we'll go through the Author Sport Victoria ladder then. So the Old Zavs atop the ladder by some 2.8%, 10-2. Old Brighton also 10-2 in second. Then you go to the Bloods in third, 8-4. So it's a 2-game hold on the top 2 for the Tunners and the Zavs. So they look pretty well set as we go towards the back end of the season. Rounding out the top 4 is St Kevin's, another game back, 7-5, 28 points in fourth. So a game outside of third. They're a game clear of 2 chasing squads in 5th and 6th. Old Scotch and the University Blacks, both 6 and 6, rounding out the teams that you feel are contending for a top 4 position in 2025. And then you get to the bottom 4. Collegians, 4 wins, 7 losses, 1 draw. St Bernard's, 4 wins, 7 losses, 1 draw. The University Blues, as we mentioned, in the drop zone, 3 wins, 7 losses, 2 draws on 16 points, 2 points outside of the safe spot. And TAYLAH Cell yet to win a game in 2025, 0-12. Maddie and Hugo.
What I love about this ladder is that we've got 3 battles going on at the moment. We've got the battle for the minor premiership, we've got the battle for the top 4, and we've got the battle for relegation. And if there's one thing we love more than a good final series, it's a good final round of the home and away season when all 3 are up for grabs. We had a really exciting finish last year. Was it like 3 games decided by a kick or something like that?
Remarkable.
It was outrageous. So to top that this year, I mean, would be a big ask. But all the ingredients are there. We've just got to sort of hold this until the end of the season, and then we've got a really good finish on our hands.
And percentage is going to play a massive part on that.
Yeah.
If you're looking at the Blacks at the moment, I mean, look, 83%.
Yeah.
That could be telling. That could be a real tell later in the season.
Yeah, it indicates to you how important results are at this time of year when you are struggling with availability, Hugo, because we have seen a few teams just getting beaten up on a little bit. St Bernard strikes me as one of those that might be ruining a few of the big losses.
And also on that, so the relegation battle at the moment, and this could change a lot, you've got Blues on 94% and then the Dogs 75%. Could be telling.
It's a long way to make back, but I think St Bernard's will be happy with 1 draw versus the University Blues. 2 draws at this time of the year because they do have that slight advantage. Though this has been a crazy season, we can't rule out another draw in the run home. Gentlemen, we've got a really exciting next half an hour on the podcast ahead. We've got the skippers of the Big V squads, TAYLAH Watson, the skipper of the Big V women's, Harry Hill, the skipper of the Big V men's, our Premier B review as well. All from Equicare. This is For the Love of the Game. More after this.
Hey guys, at GYG we never compromise on the quality of our food. That's why we only serve 100% free-range chicken. We're on a mission to reinvent fast food because who said fast food had to be bad food? Love ya.
Are you looking to grow your business? William Buck are more than just accountants and advisors who can develop strategic growth plans for your business. With over 125 years' experience, William Buck has expertise in navigating through challenging times and has been working closely with the VAFA community, creating positive change for individuals, businesses and community organisations. William Buck's team of specialist advisors work collaboratively, providing you with 360 support. Schedule a complimentary consultation today by visiting williambuck.com.
The Big V is back. The VAFA's best men and women will pull on the mighty Big V in its centenary year this Saturday at Sports Cover Arena, Elsternwick Park, thanks to City Power. Our women face the Western Australians from 1 p.m, with the men to follow from 3:30. Don't let the Big V down. Be there at Sports Cover Arena or watch all the action live and free at vafa.com.au.
Time to move on to the Big V action coming up this Saturday, gentlemen. The captain of the Big V women's team this year is TAYLAH Watson, the star out of West Brunswick. She was announced the other day as the skipper over at VAFA HQ and will lead the team against the Perth Footy League this Saturday, the 12th of July at 1 p.m. at Elsternwick Park. It's a great pleasure to welcome TAYLAH Watson onto For the Love of the Game. Hello, TAYLAH.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Anytime. Congratulations on being named skipper. What does it mean to you?
Yeah, it's pretty surreal, to be honest. And it's definitely something I don't take lightly. I'm pretty privileged that we've got a lot of leaders in the group this year and even some that are captains of their own clubs. So to be named as captain, it's a huge honour, and I think it's something that I'll be able to look back on in the future, and it'll be a significant role in my footy career.
Now, you were recently, of course, named in the West Brunswick Team of the Decade. Fantastic honour for you and a bunch of other players. I keep hearing from the people down at West Brunswick about the quality of the women's program and how it combines across the entire club. Can you talk about what it's like to be a Magpie?
Yeah, so my partner and I went down to West Brunswick in 2022, I think it was. And it's funny, we often joke as a club that once you turn up for one training session, you sort of just get sucked in. And it's a community club, it's volunteer run, and it's just created such a good culture that everyone is happy to buy in and turn up 3 to 4 nights a week. Yeah, as you mentioned, it's definitely a club that values both women's and men's teams. And it's pretty awesome. We still have a couple of men's team that are playing at the moment who were pioneers in helping start up the women's competition. So it's really awesome to be part of.
You're one of 4 West Brunswick players to end up in this year's Big V representative team. Vic Holt's also in there, Sarah Jolly and Georgia Aloms on the bench as well, who'll play up forward. There's a few teammates for you out there. Who are a few of the your new teammates, I suppose, that you're looking forward to playing with rather than against?
So there's that come to mind. I definitely can't name them all, but Jade Wise, Mia Cow and Bree Doyle, probably those sort of midfielder ones that I'm really excited to link up with. Yeah, not have to play against them for once, which is cool.
You were part of the team last year, of course, that went over and got over the top of the Perth Footy League by the barest of margins. What did you take out of that trip away under the tutelage of Paul Groves that you're hoping to funnel into this year's contest?
Yeah, obviously got the privilege to play last year, which is a huge honour. Got to travel to Perth, which with the group. But yeah, we've done a bit of a review on that. We probably didn't play the best footy that we wanted to play, just line footy, which is not really what we were hoping for. So this year we've got a lot of speed in the group, and it's just really exciting to have another go. We've learnt a lot from it, and so hopefully we can get another win this year.
And of course, there's a few, I think it's up to 5 or 6 returning players. So there are a lot of new faces around this group. You mentioned it's a quicker team than what it was last year. What kind of footy do you want to be playing on Saturday?
Look, we sort of want to be pretty confident down back, which I think we are. And then once we get about a back line, we want to be really moving fast footy, changing lane, dynamic. I think last year we just got stuck, as I mentioned before, just kicking down and just sort of hoping for the best. Whereas this year, we want to be changing lanes, carrying the ball and just trying to be dynamic as we can.
Do you feel any pressure from the 5-0 record that the Big V women do have in representative footy to maintain that, to make sure you can go 6-0 this year?
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of hard going into it last year. I wasn't really sure what to expect. And I think this year as well, from what we've seen from Perth, it looks like a different team as well. So it's kind of hard to know what to expect, but it's on our home turf this year. Hopefully we can get a lot of support around and help us get over the line. With
Perth, now we do have, I believe they're playing a regional team in the build-up to this contest as well. So there is some tape to learn from in the lead-up to the game, which I know Paul Groves, he was editing some footage on the flight over to Perth last year, so he certainly does the homework. Do you lean into that element of preparation too much at all, or are you more focused about the footy that you want to play?
Yeah, we do. We definitely have a little look into a few of their potential key players, a little look at their previous match, and apparently it was pouring, so it's a bit hard to take out what we can from that. But yeah, we'll look into a few of those players, but mostly we just want to our type of footy this year and how we want to play.
Just before we say farewell to you, Taylor, I did want to ask you a little bit more about your partner at Westies. You both have played. You've got a little one around. Are you likely to be the first exponent of the mother-child rule at West Brunswick, or have others beat you to the punch?
I don't think it's happened yet, but I probably will be beaten to it. But honestly, I don't know if my body is going to do that, but never say never. We'll see how we go. We're just hoping that he loves footy as much as we both do.
Look, all the best on Saturday afternoon. Can't wait to watch you strut your stuff as part of the Big V team. Congratulations on your appointment as skipper and all the very best.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me.
Great to catch up with the captain of the Big V women's team for 2025, West Brunswick's TAYLAH WATSON. Looking forward to seeing her and her team strut their stuff from 1 o'clock at Elsternwick Park this Saturday afternoon against the Perth Footy League. They are perfect 5-0, the Big V women, over representative footy's history so far. Looking forward to making that 6-0. There's a man, though, who would quite like to walk off Elsternwick Park a winner on the weekend. He did a wonderful job skippering the Big V last year, and Perth unfortunately wasn't able to get the result, but they've brought him back to take charge in 2025. His name is Harry Hill. He's a star midfielder for the Tunners, and he joins us now on For the Love of the Game. Hello, Harry.
G'day, Paddy. Thank you for having me. Thank you for that nice introduction.
Oh, I paid a lot of money by your coach, Soupy Bruin, to look after you, Harry, so just tying up that end of the bargain. Mate, congratulations on your appointment for a second successive year. I'm sure it means a lot to you.
Yeah, thanks. It really does. Huge honour. Obviously, last year under Hutchie, but I guess to be trusted under half this year and in the 100th year of representative footy for the VAFA, it's a even bigger honour. So something I'm super proud of and excited to get out there on Saturday.
He's a pretty fresh face as far as Big V footy goes, Daniel Harford. What have you made of the coach in your short time, I suppose, playing underneath him?
I've loved it, to be honest. He brings a whole lot of energy to the group, which I think is really exciting. It's pretty clear how he wants to play, and I think hopefully that's reflected in how we go about things on the weekend. But it just encourages us to sort of take the game on, use our skills. We're all good players, so hopefully that transforms into a pretty exciting game and high scoring with a lot of back and forth footy. But Half's been great. He's been really energetic, and the boys are loving it. The program's been run really well over the last sort of 4 or 5 weeks.
I see, Harry, that there's 6 or 7 returning players from last year's squad, but there are 4 Old Brighton players, obviously yourself, but also Geordie Seaguard, Jamie Hope and Louis Butler, all first-time representatives for the Big V. I'm sure the excitement at Brighton Beach Oval is palpable.
Yeah, it really is. It's awesome for those boys. Obviously, played a lot of footy with Seags over the last few years, and Hope he's only coming into his 3rd year at VAFA level. But yeah, it's just a great reward for their seasons that they've put together. And Louis as well, he's listed at North Melbourne VFL, but we've been fortunate to have him for the last 6 weeks, and just a stellar player, the way he's gone about things. He's come back from the VFL and just applied himself so well. So, yeah, I'm super excited to see how those boys go about it. I was pretty keen when the squads got released to sort of encourage all the boys, especially at Brighton, to get amongst it and get involved. Obviously, I've been fortunate to be involved in a few programs now, and the relationships and the memories you make over those few weeks leading up, and then obviously game day and the hopeful celebrations, sort of lifelong memories and friendships. So great that those boys have got amongst it, and super happy that they get rewarded with the game.
As I mentioned off the top, Harry, unfortunately, you're not coming off a victory in 2024. The Perth Footy League got the job done at home with the Burleigh Footy at Bassendean, I believe it was, this time last year. Does that burn in the gut a little bit for you and your teammates?
It does. There's no doubt. It was, full credit to the Perth Footy League. They were great on the day last year. Obviously, the Burleigh didn't help, and our skills probably weren't as polished as we would have liked, Paddy. But full credit to them. They were awesome how they sort of applied themselves and were able to play, a full 4-quarter effort and get the job done. But sort of like you said, I think, only we've got, about half a dozen. I think there's only 6 returning players. So obviously for that group, it burns and we want to get one back, similar to what Perth probably were last year after we got the job done in overtime a couple of years ago. But it's just sort of trying to build up the hype, I guess, for the new guys coming into the program who weren't a part of that, and sort of acknowledge and understand, how important it is to get back on the winners list.
I asked this question to your counterpart, TAYLAH WATSON, a few minutes ago. Who are some of the players that you'd usually be going up against on a Saturday afternoon, Harry, that you're now fortunate to be alongside of this time around? Yeah,
there's a few. I'll give a shout out. I've been super impressed with Sam Barnett from St Kevin's. He nearly won in the game early on in the year, and was pretty crucial again on the weekend, and rightfully rewarded as a vice captain. He's been great around the group. I'm excited to play with Campbell Lane. Laney and I were same year at school, Brighton and Xavier, and I've had a few battles back in school days, and then Laney obviously had a great VFL career, and is now back leading the old Zavs. So he's one I'm excited to play with. A few of the other mids as well. Stav, obviously, who I got to play with last year. Brady Seckle, just a super professional, super footballer, super bloke. Really excited to run out with him. He's obviously got a lot of experience playing at a really high level. So, they're probably a few that sort of stand out as the ones I'm looking forward to playing with.
Well, Harry, congratulations again on your appointment. I can't wait to see how you go about it on Saturday afternoon. Let's hope you can bring home the silverware for us as well, mate. Thanks for your time on For the Love of the Game.
No worries, Paddy. That's the plan. We'll get a win and celebrate accordingly.
Great to speak to one of the favourites of the For the Love of the Game podcast and anything VAFA media related for a number of years now, Harry Hill, who is returning as the skipper of the Big V team in 2025. He'll run out in the blue and gold and white jumper this year. A little look at what the jumpers might be, Matthew, Donald and Hugo. It's a nice special design this Saturday afternoon against the Perth Footy League at Elsternwick Park. Make sure that you're in attendance. Tickets at the gate, of course. The women's game starts at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard. The men at 3:30. Live streamed, of course, on vafa.com.au and Community TV. $10 tickets at the gate for adults under 12s go free. So supremely excited to get stuck into some representative footy this season. Gents, we're on to the Premier B division, which, as you both know, is my pet division. I take this one very seriously indeed. And we've got a nice stat that unites both William Buck Premier and Premier B, which is new ladder leaders. So the Zavs got over the top of Old Brighton at the weekend. Old Trinity, with a big win over the Hampton Rovers, are now the ladder leaders of Premier B. They are up a minuscule percentage over Old Ivanhoe in first place. These do feel like the two teams that are going to probably play on the last day of September as far as Premier B is concerned. They seem to be so well set up for these last 6 weeks of the season. The T's getting it done over the Hampton Rovers. I was really excited, Hugo and Maddie, to see Tommy Ferrier play really well. He's a guy who's quite often been the odd man out with Dom Payman and big Hugh Beasley up front for the T's. He kicked 7 goals at the weekend and just firmed up his position as far as the back end of the season goes. As far as Big V representative goes, Hugo Higginbotham, we have 3 T's players. Boston Dowling, who's a superstar forward who can also play in the ruck. Hugo McGlashan on the outside, as well as Christos Manasakis. All 3 of those guys were superb on the weekend.
Yeah, no, look, they're great players and we're really excited. We're lucky to have them in the side as well. Experience, they've come from a great club. You know, it's just exciting. Really good. They're great players.
As we look across the rest of the results, the one that I'm particularly interested in, Hugo Higginbotham, is Caulfield Grammarians. So it's the first time that they've been in the top 4 all season long. They get a 10-point victory over the Ogs at Glen Huntly Park, which is a ground that they've been superb at in 2025. They've dropped just the one game there. They've held home court as it is so well. Paul Satterley absolutely elated with this result. And I think elated for his playing group. It's been a tough couple of years for the Fields. They didn't win many games when they were up in Premier A. They got sent down to Premier B. They just escaped relegation to Premier C in 2024. Sats has come on board. And after starting a little bit slowly, it must be said, the Fields, they're really rattling along nicely. They've got a 1-game hold in the top 4, 9-11-65 to 7-13-55 against the Ogs. Dylan Ting with a couple of goals for the Field. Sam McInerney and Hamish McInerney, good again. Josh Hutchings fighting hard against Jack Sheridan in the ruck. You could speak to Jack Sheridan a bit more because he's your big V ruckman, but he broke the ton for hit-outs on the weekend. He is just a freak.
No, amazing player, but such a nice guy. And we had a little mids meeting training the other night, and very articulate and a very, just a professional about the way he goes about it. So, unfortunately, he's had probably his biggest game of the year before we play Bendigo. I wanted him to have no hit-outs, no touches, no nothing, just to go under the radar. But we can talk about him because they'll be talking about him too up there.
Different kind of ton watch. 100 hit-outs.
Very much so,
I don't think I've ever seen that before. That's a phenomenal achievement.
That's a lot of stoppages, though, too, isn't it?
19 disposals, 12 clearances, 105 hit-outs, which is... You do not see those numbers. So that's a social media post, I think, coming later in the week for big Jack Sheridan. Count every one of his 105 hit-outs. It might be a 3-hour video, Hugo. It's a tough one. Rounding out the top 4, we spoke about the T's. We spoke about Caulfield. We touched on Old Ivanhoe. Williamstown CYMS got it done at the Fearon Reserve over Fitzroy, 109-52. Will Bockmer, another big V guy who we'll speak about, 45 touches, 13 clearances, 11 inside 50s, 10 tackles, 3 goal assists. And it's the second week in a row that he's actually had 40 disposals, 10 tackles, and a dozen clearances. So he is in supreme nick as he heads towards the game against the Bendigo Footy League. The big story from this game, Hugo and Maddie, is Rob Chan. So he's a former skipper of this footy club. He's playing his 200th game at the weekend. It's past players' day at the Fearon Reserve. They were really gassed up for this game of footy. And in the first 15 minutes, Rob does his hamstring, unfortunately. But Contezoglu did say that with 3 minutes to go, with the game well and truly paid for, they did try and hobble him out there into the goal square to try and sneak him a goal. Unfortunately, he couldn't quite get it done. But a massive day for the CYs, who go into the weekends off in really good shape after their heartache, I suppose, at this point last year, where they had to rescue themselves from relegation. They're 8-4 and with a game hold on third spot and 2 games clear inside the top 4.
Geez, That's a long time to be off the ground for, sitting in your shorts and your jumper too down there. It's always windy down there too. But, well, you like stories like that. And that's what community footy's about. You really like things like that.
Yeah, Brad Tucker also good with 38 disposals for the CYs. Fitzroy coach Travis Ronaldson was disappointed in the lack of adaptation, I suppose, to the conditions down there at the Fearon Reserve. They didn't play into the wind as well as Ronaldson wanted them to. Effort, pressure, intent was great, but Fitzroy still looking for its second victory of what's been a dirty year so far in 2025. Old Ivanhoe, second on the ladder. Rare experience of beating a very highly fancied opponent in the Old Melburnians who've been in super form, yet actually falling down a place on the ladder in Premier B, 97-84. The Hoas actually led this one from the opening siren. They kicked 6 of the first 7 goals of the game and were able to hold off the OMs as they charged home late. This has been the story for Jared Geishan's team. It's been the guys they've been able to bring through from their reserves in the under-19s over the last couple of weeks. David Waldron, on debut, 14 disposals, 7 marks and 4 goals. So he was pretty much the difference. He was named the Hoas third best on field behind Rowan McKenzie and Alex Murkov, who've been superb. A 2023 under-19s premiership player, David Waldron. Good form in the Rezzies, but really impressed the coaching staff with his performance. Billy Murphy and Paddy Nash, superb through the middle of the ground. And Charlie Opie, the skipper of this year's Big V under-19s team, had the job on Ned Nichols and got a good look at one of the competition's very best players.
Yeah, that's a big win. They got off to a massive start too. I think it was 6-1 in the first quarter. So if you look at the result for the day, it's always hard to chase, especially out there.
It certainly is. Nathan Brown, the coach of the Old Melburnians, he was proud of his team's ability to push a very, very good team to the last. 5 wins from their last 6 starts coming into this game, the OM, so in super form, but just unable to get it done down the stretch, despite having a good shake at it on debut. Freddie McIntyre and Lockie Hazeman with 31 disposals and a goal to round that one out. We'll finish on Old Camberwell and Old Carey. This is a crucial matchup as far as the makeup of the chasing pack of teams goes, as far as the top 4 is concerned. The Wellers looked in a bit of trouble in this one. Fourth quarter, they were down by 17 points early in the piece at the 9-minute mark, but still felt they had the ability to overrun Old Carey. That they did. They ended up kicking the 3 goals quickly to take the lead and held on late, 78-74 winners over the Panthers in a game that just puts them right back in the chasing pack. Here you go, Matty.
Yeah, great to see that win there. But Jimmy Allen, he's in our Big V squad. He's going to have a big impact next week as well. So great to see him. And another excellent young man too. So we've got a good squad of very nice young men.
That's a big win for Old Camberwell, because coming from behind at 3/4 time is never an easy feat. And then for Old Carey to actually build on that lead in the last term just makes that challenge all the more difficult. To come from behind and get a win on the road like that, that's going to be a huge boost for them as we approach the end of the season.
You look at the ladder at Premier B, and it's just remarkable because at the top you have first place Old Trinity 140.13, second place Old Ivanhoe 139.74, both 10 and 2. It's less than 0.5%.
0.39.
That decides the first position on this ladder, which is just befitting, I think, of the competition. Williamstown CYMS, they're 2 games back, 8 and 4 and third. Caulfield Grammarians take 4th spot, 7 and 5. And then you've got 4 teams at 6 and 6, all preying on a mistake from the fields. The Old Melburnians head up that group, followed by the Wellers, the Yogs and Old Carey. That's all decided by percentage. 6th is decided by some 5%. All those clubs at 6 and 6, and then the Old Melburnians with a percentage advantage. They've got 19 percentage points on the Wellers, 5th from 6th. So Nathan Brown's squad, with I'm not quite sure if you can call that an extra game through percentage, but it is certainly a handy advantage. You get quite a significant drop, though, to the drop zone from Old Carey to Fitzroy. The Roys 1 and 11 in 9th. Hampton Rovers yet to win a game in 2025 at the bottom of the ladder. Now, Hugo Higginbotham. First off, I've got a bone to pick with you because I was going through the Premier B to Division 3 team that was announced yesterday. And I was looking at the assistant coaches and I saw this bloke called Peter Higginbotham in there. Yes. I haven't seen this Peter Higginbotham in years. I found out that's you. You've changed your name on me. I don't know. Who actually does call you Peter these days?
Not my grandmother anymore. She passed away recently, but no, I don't. Oh, my wife does when I'm in trouble.
There you go.
I get that. But that's about it. Yes, I know it is my name, but I haven't been called that for well. You've been around footy clubs all your life. You get a nickname. Well, Billy Brownless is not Billy.
Exactly right.
So, look, I'm not as large as Billy either, which is good.
So where does Hugo come from then?
It's been a nickname since I've been about 2 years old.
There you go. Yeah. I love that so much. You are, of course, the assistant coach of the Premier B to Division 3 squad. You've announced your team.
Yes.
You've got a few big names as far as Premier B is concerned, and then some great representation from the rest of the amateurs as well. You've seen this team train under the guise of Luke Marnie for the second successive year as it awaits the Bendigo Footy League at that game at the Queen Elizabeth Oval this coming Sunday. What excites you about this 22, and what excites you about the players that featured well over the weekend?
Look, as I said before, I keep banging on about this great group, very nice young men, all say hi, all that sort of stuff. They train very well. But we've got a real blend of experience and emerging talent. So in that squad, we've got 6 club captains. So you can imagine the leadership of that. We've got 2 captains in virtually each zone on the field, so which is an important part for us. They've got a bit of cohesion quite quickly. Considering, we've got 5 divisions we're choosing from, it's something like 50 teams. It's over 1,100 people, and we've been able to whittle it down to 23 plus emergencies. There's good representation from, every division, but Division 1, there's a lot of representation in there, so it's exciting. There's a lot of flexibility in the side as well. So we'll be focusing on us, but we'll be aware of Bendigo, so we'll have a few plans in place. But don't worry, we've got plan A, B, C, D. And we'll go from there. But we're going to need to as well. Bendigo, their squad is amazing. They've got a lot of talent in there. And look, they've only got 8 sides to pick from. So how easy is that? So 2 out of each, then we're nearly done. But there's some good talent up there. Hartley, Green, Tardrew, they're names that we've all heard before. And hopefully they'll not be featuring too heavily on the weekend.
Yeah, so look forward to heading up to the Queen Elizabeth Oval to see the Premier B to Division 3 team and, of course, the Big V Under-19s team take on the Bendigo Footy and Netball League at the QEO. As we mentioned, a beautiful place for footy, just quietly, the Queen Elizabeth Oval, one of my favourite grounds in Victoria. Both games are going to be live streamed on vafa.com.au from 11 a.m. on Sunday, which is when the Big V Under-19s kick things off. The Big V Premier B to Division 3 match will follow at 1:30 p.m. As we mentioned, it's the star out of Beaumaris, Cal Linehan, who is the skipper of the Prem B to Divi 3 team, and then the youngster out of Old Ivanhoe, Charlie Opie, who leads out the under-19. So looking forward to seeing how they go at the weekend. We'll take a break on For the Love of the Game. On the other side of this, Premier C and our Divisional Wrap with BRAYDEN MAY.
Hey guys, at GYG we never compromise on the quality of our food. That's why we only serve 100% free-range chicken. We're on a mission to reinvent fast food, because who said fast food had to be bad food? Love ya.
Are you looking to grow your business? William Buck are more than just accountants and advisors who can develop strategic growth plans for your business. With over 125 years' experience, William Buck has expertise in navigating through challenging times and has been working closely with the VAFA community, creating positive change for individuals, businesses and community organisations. William Buck's team of specialist advisors work collaboratively, providing you with 360 support. Schedule a complimentary consultation today by visiting williambuck.com.
Welcome back to For the Love of the Game. Thanks to Mecwick here. Hugo and Maddie, let's now move along to Premier C, because I can see that the undefeated are no more. Parkdale Vultures, they got all the way through to the last weekend before the double bye, before Beaumaris was able to get the job done. Matthew Donald, 7-22-64, if you don't mind, for the Sharks, to 4-6-30 to the Vultures. And it just seems like Josh Burke's team is working its way into the back end of the year nicely.
Yeah, no, absolutely. A very comprehensive performance there from the visitors, and certainly didn't lack for opportunities to put the game away. 29 scores to 10. They had 3 times as many scores. In truth, this game could have been over by half-time. It was 2-14 to 2-5 at the main break. So Parkdale were very fortunate that, even at three-quarter time, it was only 18 points in it. So they could still have very well walked away with a win with a good last quarter. The better side won, but Hugo, it could have been a lot more.
Oh, absolutely. You've got to look at that. That's, 20 more scoring shots nearly. That's a lot of avenues to goal. But I'm actually happy about that because our Big V captain, Cal Linehan, he's a fullback, so he didn't see much of it for the day. So he's fresh for the weekend coming in. But that's got to give Beaumaris so much confidence moving forward.
Yep. Yeah, so Bowie now moving up to second place on the ladder. They're just they might have been second coming into the game, but they are now just one game behind top spot and Parkdale, and they have a superior percentage. We'll have more on the ladder in a moment. I see that Peg's got a win in the 400th game for Andrew Fraser, who also managed to kick a goal as well. They got it done by 75 points over Glen Ira Old McKinnon. St Beedsman Tone Tigers 89 defeating Paran 23. Ajax 81 over Mazenod 42 and Marcelin 102 defeating Parkside 55. 9-1 55 for Parkside, so made the most of just 10 scoring shots. Going down by 47 points regardless, Matthew Donald, as we look to the ladder. Still the Vultures atop the ladder, but it's now getting very, very close indeed across the top four.
So, yeah, it is still Parkdale who maintain that one-game gap between themselves and Beau Morris. It's Ajax who are in third, only trailing Beau Morris by 1.2%. So it could not be much tighter there between second and third. St Bede's Mentone have got a bit of a buffer as well as we round out the top four. Record of 9-3, 2 games back of Pegs in fifth. And then there's a huge chasm, 3 games between Pegs and Glen Iris. So there's a clearly defined top 5 and bottom 5 here in the competition. Glen Iris with a record of 4-8 on 16 points. Mazenod with 3 and 9 record, as is Marcelin. So Mazenod ahead just on percentage there. Parkdale also on 3 wins, and then Paran still looking for their first win of the season. None from 12 so far in 2025.
It's going to be tricky for the team, again, like William Buck Premier. The team that goes down from Premier C in 9th position is going to be stiff, because we're looking right now at 3 and 9 teams, and then Glen Iris, Old McKinnon at 4 and 8, who are probably battling for that 9th position. The percentage gap is some 15% between the 4 of them. At the moment, it's Parkside by a tick over 3% that are in that dreaded 9th position on the ladder. This could go down to the wire, Hugo, as we're going to see across a couple of divisions across the association.
Yeah, you would. Look, Mazenod's the one for mine at the moment to probably stay up. They've had a good percentage there, kick a lot of goals, and have had some regional scores kicked against them, but they're going all right at the moment. But, geez, it's tight and close. And the problem is as well, you go down to Division 1, this is a very strong Division 1 we spoke about earlier this year. So you really want to stay up in C.
So that's Premier C done and dusted, Matty and Hugo. Another week in the books as we look towards the break. Let's head on now to the divisions and our newshound who joins us out of the Herald Sun every week. It's a big hello to Brayden May. Hello, Brayden.
Hello, guys. How are we for Big V week?
Oh, very excited. Do we find you in the Fort Dumay out in Wollert this morning?
No, you don't. I've made my way into the office this morning. I thought I'd make my head known, do the right thing.
Fantastic stuff, mate. Before we get stuck into what I'm sure is a big riding week for you with the Big V, let's talk about the weekend that was in the divisions. I see that you've had a conversation with the coach of Ormond, Kyle Pinto.
Yeah, they're absolutely flying. 3 games clear on top of the ladder, and this might be their best win of the season. I don't think they've had too many results where it's been close in reality. They got a 4-point win over an old Peninsula side that Pinto highly respects. They've got some quality players, obviously a couple of players in the Big V rep side as well. So that speaks volumes of them. But I think the biggest thing I took out of my chat with Kyle was they've still got 4 key players, including Harrison Burton, Captain BJ Hardwick, to come back into this side, which means he's going to need to have some selection headaches. And if you're a guy 20 to 22, you're really fighting for your spot at the moment.
It certainly feels that way for the Monders. We caught up a little bit earlier on in the podcast, Brayden, with the coach of Collegians, JORDIE McKENZIE. The Lions in William Buck Premier trying to escape the relegation race and get themselves out of a dangerous position. I see Therry Pinola's trying to do the exact same thing in Division 1.
Yeah, they picked up a big win, the old-fashioned 8-pointer. They got the better of Monash Blues by 16 points on the weekend. Therry, they've really been down for most of the season, but going into the bye with this sort of win will do them a lot of confidence. They're quite a young side. Nathan Thomas was best on ground. He's a new guy at the club this year. He came across as a notable goal kicker. Probably hasn't kicked as many as he would have liked, but he's a big body and able to get all around the ground. But, yeah, they're now within a game and percentage of the Blues. It's going to be interesting. A lot of sides, I think, right across the competition, going to get some key players back as we head into the last 6 games. So it'll be interesting to see what the Lions can do. But I think, speaking to opposition, Derry and Elstonwick, they're sides you don't want to play in the last few games.
It feels a little bit that way about USH for you as well, Brayden May. Were you surprised to see that them perform so well against Brunswick at the Gillen Oval and win that game by 35 points?
I don't think you can be surprised. On paper, this side has got so much quality, and they probably performed below expectations and where we thought they would be. If we turn the clock back 12 months, they were flying at the halfway point of the season. From what I remember, they were unbeaten. Probably been a little bit up and down. Lost some key players this year, and depth's a big thing. I think coaches will tell you now that they probably need a squad of 30 to really pick from if they are going to contend for a premiership, and they've lost a couple out of that. But a really good win. Ormond do play them after the bye, and like Kyle said, they're a quality side, and it's going to be an interesting matchup. Someone like Brandon Jackson kicked 5 on the weekend. We all know what he's capable of. He's a player that can turn a game in a matter of minutes. And if they can put it together, they're going to have a big say in how that top 4 actually finishes up.
So the results for the rest of the round for Division 1. So Q 121 getting it done over Oakley 55. Preston Bullants 72 over Elsternwick 60. And we already spoke about wins for Therapanola, Ormond and UHS VU. Matthew Donald, as we take a look at the Division 1 ladder.
Yep, so it's Ormond who is still well on top. 3 games clear, 12 from 12. Q and Old Peninsula fighting out for that second spot. They're level on points, a record of 9 and 3 each. Preston Bullants running out the top 4 with 8 wins. And then as we move down, Oakley with 7 wins there in 5th spot. And then there's a bit of a chasm after that. 2 games back of Brunswick in 6th. UHS 1 game behind them in 7th. Then Monash, Therapanola and Elsternwick rounding out the top 10.
On to Division 2. Brayden May, where do you want to start here?
I think we might start towards the foot of the ladder. And Canterbury, they're arguably the form side of the competition, and they've opened a 2-game gap to the relegation zone. And they're absolutely fine. They got better at the Hawthorn side by 76 points, which is a big win. Yeah. And Aquinas and the Hawks are probably looking at a bit of trouble at the moment, just based on form. But as we know, things can turn quickly. We've seen teams perform the Great Escape. But we mentioned him last week. Ryder Daffy, he's on fire. He kicked 5. I think it's only his 4th game now. He's got 14 goals in 4 games. It's just remarkable for a kid that had never played senior footy up until a month ago.
It's very handy indeed. I'm just looking at Canterbury's last 3 wins. So 3 wins on the trot, all scoring well over 100 points. So you're right, Brayden, mate. They are absolutely rolling as we head into the double bye. It almost seems like it comes the break at the wrong time for them, considering their form. Just a week off, though, in Division 2. So they'll resume on the 19th. Old Yarra Cobras have rolled out a new forward, I see.
Yes, Jackson Leschko, he's actually someone I've previously played footy with, and this guy can seriously play. I've never played in the same side. I was only the 12 p.m. midday show, but this guy can seriously play. It's one that snuck under the radar. He's a real mobile forward. If the ball hits the deck, he can do some things that leave you shaking your head. He can fly, he can take marks, and he played a good role for a Parkside team over in the Western, the namesake of the VAFA club. And, yeah, he's a really quality addition, and they've already got a lot of key forwards down there that can hit the scoreboard high. It's going to be interesting to see just how they get that chemistry right. It's obviously working at the moment, but I'm not sure how we got down there. It's just one of these guys that might have walked in off the street, and they're worth their weight in gold.
And going through the results of round 12, not a good weekend if you were looking for nail biters. St John's defeated Aquinas by 37 points. That was the heart stopper. That was the closest game of the weekend. Canterbury with a big 76-point win over Hawthorn Seniors. West Brunswick defeated Melbourne High by 37 points as well. So that was the other close one.
Nice.
Old Yarra Cobras were too good for Whitefriars, an 87-point win there. And then St Mary's accounted for South Melbourne by 40 points. As we turn to the ladder, Paddy.
I'm looking at the ladder, but before I want to get stuck into it, Brayden, I'm just more interested in this story about Jackson Leschko. Like, I need to know, first off, about your form together when you played, and also your form as a footballer, Brayden, because we're just learning a little bit more about you as the year continues.
He was very much receiving advice from me over the fence after I had not got a kick in the midday show.
Right, very much so.
He's a ripping individual. He's a really good get for Old Yarra Cobras on and off the field.
Great stuff. So the ladder, the Old Yarra Cobras in first place on 42 points, 10 wins, 1 loss and 1 draw. 2 points clear of St Mary's. Salesian in second, 10 wins and 2 losses. A game back, West Brunswick in third, and then 6 points back to fourth, Whitefriars. 6 further points back to MHSOB in fifth, to have a game hold on that position to St John's and South Melbourne in 6th and 7th. Canterbury 8th, Hawthorn 9th and Aquinas 10th. To round out Division 2. Onto Division 3, Brayden. Wattle Park just going really nicely at this point of the year, and a big win over Richmond Central.
Yeah, they've kind of steadied themselves. They obviously started the year on fire. I think it was 8 unbeaten. They've lost 3 since then. But, yeah, a really good win against Richmond Central, who are sitting in 4th position. The Animals remain in the hunt for that important double chance. Like, they're only behind North Brunswick, who I think we had question marks over the start of the season. There was so much going on, we weren't sure what they're going to do, but the Bulls are a very well-run group and they're proud and they obviously know what's going on. But the one team I want to keep an eye on that I don't actually have mentioned in the story at the moment, going into after the bye, Albert Park, they're just flying under the radar. I think they're only about a game back in of the four now. And they've taken a couple of scalps in the last couple of weeks. Obviously, Tom Wilson's made the Big V squad for the Prem B to D3 side to play Bendigo. So maybe once they just get this chemistry that they've spoken about in pre-season right, they're a side that may do some damage. And if they finish in the lower half of the four, look out.
Yeah, Braden, Hugo here. I'm actually one of the coaches of the B to Div 3 team, and we've got Tom Wilson. He's in the team. He's going to be a big part for us, and we were just that excited when we saw him kick 6 on the weekend. So that's one of the great stories where we've got a guy in Division 3 who's kicked 6, and he's going to play a big part with guys who are playing B grade and the whole thing. So it's exciting for us as a coaching group to see that.
Very much looking forward to seeing Tommy Wilson do his best work at the Queen Elizabeth Oval next Sunday. The results from around Division 3, so Powerhouse 111 winning over Box Hill by 89 points rather, so 111 to 22 there for Powerhouse. Continuing their work, Latrobe winning by 71 points over Ely Park. Albert Park, as you mentioned, Braden, 81-point winners over Swinburne Uni. North Brunswick by 132 points over Chadstone, and Wattle Park, as we mentioned off the top in our Division 3 roundup, 17-point winners over Richmond Central. Matthew Donald, as we look to the ladder.
Yeah, and it's still Powerhouse, who are 2 games clear atop, an 11-1 record. Then you got 2 games back, North Brunswick in second spot. Wattle Park just establishing that buffer over Richmond Central with that win we spoke about over the weekend. So they're now a game clear of Richmond and Albert Park, who are both tied with 8 wins apiece in 4th and 5th. We go further back 2 games. Box Hill are in 6th spot. Latrobe 1 game behind them in 7th. Then another 2-game buffer where we find Swinburne in 8th. Then another 2-game buffer where we find Chadstone in 9th and Ely Park, bottom of the ladder, still looking for their first win of 2025.
Braden May, I'm going to ask you a question that I'm pretty sure I know the answer to. What are you writing about this week?
Oh, well, we're going to catch up with the Big V coaches, hopefully a couple of the players, and then roll into the weekend and hopefully snag a few more great stories from across the VAFA that roll out in the coming weeks.
It's going to be a ripping few days of representative footy. You can read all about it at Herald Sun and local footy and Leader and Community TV and wherever I see you pop up. Braden May does a great job in reporting on all things amateur footy in 2025 and for years before that as well. Braden May, it's been a pleasure to be joined by you once again on For the Love of the Game. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Beautiful, guys. Thanks very much and look forward to the week.
All for Mecwa Care. For the Love of the Game continues after this.
The Big V is back. The VAFA's best men and women will pull on the mighty Big V in its centenary year this Saturday at Sports Cover Arena, Elstonwick Park, thanks to City Power. Our women face the Western Australians from 1 p.m, with the men to follow from 3:30. Don't let the Big V down. Be there at Sports Cover Arena or watch all the action live and free at vafa.com.au.
Great to catch up with Braden May, and you can head over and read all his stuff on the Herald Sun website. Fantastic work he does for the Amateurs Association. We caught up with the skipper of the Big V women's team, West Brunswick's TAYLAH Watson, a little while ago. Let's go through the William Buck Premier Women's results, Matthew Donald.
Yeah, let's do so. So St Kevin's were the big winners against Beau Morris, winning by 41 points. Caulfield Grammarians were too strong for Taylor's West Brunswick, 52-8, a 44-point win there for Caulfield. Get this one, between Fitzroy and Kew, the margins across the course of the game. So 9 points at quarter time to Fitzroy, 1 point at halftime, dead level at three-quarter time, but Kew 1 point winners at the end, 3-8-26 to 4-1-25. So Fitzroy leading at every change except the one that mattered. Old Scotch, big winners over Williamstown, 10-11-71 to 5 behind, and then Old Geelong had the bye.
So Caulfield Grammarians still atop the ladder, still yet to drop a game in 2025. The Fields, 11 wins from 11 starts. Old Scotch in second, St Kevin's in third, both on 36 points, decided by a decent bit of percentage, though. Old Scotch at 328.7, St Kevin's at 153.3. So that's a game's advantage in percentage and a bit. Kew in fourth, rounds out the top four. West Brunswick in fifth, Old Geelong sixth, Fitzroy seventh, Williamstown, CYMS eighth, and Beau Morris in ninth as we look to Premier B Women's, Matty.
Yeah, so the results in Premier B round 12. Old Brighton with a 21-point win over Port Melbourne. Westbourne coming from behind at three-quarter time, kicking 2 goals to none in the last term to defeat Old Melburnians by 3 points, 4-1 to 3-4. Marcelin were too good for St Bede's Mentone, winning 3 straight 18 to 139. And the Old Yarra Cobras were too good for the Old Zaverians, winning 8-12-60 to just the one behind. And Melbourne University's women's team had the bye this weekend.
So Old Yarra Cobras, their third win of the season, but they're still in 8th position. We'll go from the top. Old Brighton in first, 10 wins, 1 loss. The Old Melburnians in second. Port Melbourne Chargers and Westbourne round out the top four. Westbourne with some 10 points on St Bede's Mentone in 5th. Then you've got the Old Zavs in 6th, Marcellin in 7th, the Old Yarra Cobras in 8th, and the Muggers dead last in 9th without a win in 2025. Now, Hugo and Maddie, it's usually at this point of the podcast where we get the live sting from Jason Bennett, where he tips his head back and scares everyone in the suburb of Elsternwick by yelling, "Ton watch!" But we're not going to do that today, of course, with the Big V coming up and then the weekend off after that for the top 3 divisions of association footy. So that leaves us at the end of a very, very strong podcast from the pair of you. Thanks to both of you for your company today. What are your movements going to be over this weekend, Maddie? I know that you're involved in some capacity on the broadcast.
Yep, so I'll be involved in both. I'll be calling the women's fixture and then doing a bit of boundary riding, which I haven't ventured into too often, but it's always nice to get boots on the ground for a change. So looking forward to Saturday. It's going to be a ripper.
Yes, and I'm there as well. So we've got the call for the men's game. I think you're there, Paddy.
Yes.
So you're doing the host work as usual, me on not so special comments. But we've got someone coming over from the West.
Yes, we do.
Getting on my turf.
My goodness.
This might be interesting. We'll have to be opposite ends of the desk.
Pistols at 15 paces in the commentary box at Elsternwick Park between Hugo and our mysterious special comments man from WA. It's great to have the Perth Footy League flying over. It was a wonderful experience last year when the Vics went over there. Unfortunately couldn't get both wins, but as we know, the pressure's big on the women's to be able to continue their undefeated streak in representative footy, and the men's needing to respond after last year's loss to the Perth Footy League. A reminder on how to catch up with all of these games as they play out across the weekend. First things first, if you want any sort of Big V information, you head to vafa.com.au to do it. You'll find the full men's, women's, the Premier Beta Division 3 and the under-19 squads there. The place you need to be on Saturday afternoon is Elsternwick Park. The Big V women will take on the Perth Footy League from 1 p.m. and then the men from 3:30. Back-to-back games. Both will be live streamed on vafa.com.au and Community TV. Tickets to the game are available at the gate for just $10. For adults under 12s will go free. The Sunday game, that's going to be the under-19s first up at the Queen Elizabeth Oval in Bendigo from 11 a.m, taking on the Bendigo Footy Netball League representative squad before the Premier Beta Division 3 match follows at 1:30 p.m. Again, live streamed on vafa.com.au from 11 a.m. on Sunday. Hugo Higginbotham and Matthew Donald, thank you very much for your company.
Thank you, Paddy. Looking forward to this weekend. What a great weekend of footy we got coming up.
Thank you, Paddy and Hugo. Always a pleasure. And yeah, echoing Hugo's sentiments there. Can't wait for this weekend. It's going to be a big one.
All from Medical Care, this has been For the Love of the Game. Looking forward to your company this time next week.